Hello everybody, this is Coding Atlas and today we are studying OOP. So what OOP is? OOP is basically a way to write code and it's heavily used in commercial projects. If you work for example on a game or on a website, you will encounter OOP. So OOP has this concept of classes and objects. C# is an OOP language. You can write code without OOP, but it's very bad practice. And it was introduced only with .NET Core, with some new version of it. Basically, when C# just came out, it wasn't possible to write code without OOP, same as in Java. But most people write it with OOP, so it has the concepts of classes and objects. You see, we already have a class here, which is the main class of the program. I also forgot we also have a main function here. But we can create our own classes, and what a class is? Class is basically a template for objects. Think of this like that. Imagine you want to have users in your application, and every single user needs to have a username, password, email, and maybe some other options like gender and so on. And for this, you would want to store this data. How would you store it? You would create a class called user, and user will contain the information which a user contains. So it will have like username field, password field, email field, and so on. And based on this template, you'll create users with all these fields. That's the idea of it. If you want to create a game, for example, you would have, let's say, class enemy, and enemy has health, damage, and other variables which you can change. And this is quite easy to understand from this perspective. But let's write some code and see how it actually works. Firstly, you need to declare classes outside of classes in namespaces. So we can do it here. Let's say we want to declare a class of user. This right here would work, but let's make it more convenient for us and declare it in another file, because usually a good practice is to write classes in different files. Let's create a file here called user.cs. CS stands for C#. Write a namespace and call it the same way as we named this namespace. In our case, it's tutorial. And here we can create the class. That's how a class looks like, and here we can create fields and methods. A field is basically a variable which the object of the class will have on it, and the method is a function which the object of the class will have on it, and which we can call on the object of the class. So for example, when we call console.writeLine, in this case, we actually don't call a method. We call a method, but it's a static method. It means that it's basically a function, but we call the method on class name, not on an object, because it's a static method. But we'll explain it later. Now, just think of it like console is the class, writeLine is the method. So we call writeLine method of the class console. So let's say, how do we give the fields to the user, like username and so on? Firstly, there's three modifiers: public, private, and protected. So there's three modifiers: public, private, and protected. If we have a public field, it will be available everywhere outside of the class. For example, here, we will be able to access it. If it's private, it is accessible only inside of the class, so we cannot access it outside in the main, for example, even if we create the object over here. So protected is the field with protected is only being accessed inside of the class and derived classes. Try to not think much about it right now. When we'll have inheritance, I'll explain it once again what protected does. For now, just know there is public, which is accessed outside, and private, which is not. So let's create some fields. Let's say we have public string username, public, let's say age, public string email, and let's keep it like this. Let's keep it simple. Now let's try create an object of class user. How we do it? User is basically a data type at this point. You write user, give it a name. We can call it user1, for example. Any name would work. Then we initialize it. Initializing it is done with the keyword new and the name of the class. Then we open the parentheses, close it, and semicolon. Now we can give it values. Let's say user.1, user1 dot username equals to admin, age equals to 30, and email equals to admin@gmail.com. Now we gave the values and let's try print them. Let's try run the program. And here we have username admin, email admin@gmail.com, and age 30. It works perfectly. So, what if we want to initialize it with one line, like not writing all of this, we want only one line? We can do it with constructor, but we'll have it in one of the next tutorials. Right now, let's create a method and see how methods works. Let's call the method initialize. Let's say public, we need to give modifier also to the method, public void, call it initialize. And here let's give it some parameters. Because we already have username, age, and email, we will name them a bit differently. We will say string username, int age, and string email. Actually, we can do it a bit differently, so we keep the same name here and here. We need to use this keyword, but we'll also have it in one of the next tutorials because understanding it might be quite difficult for now. So let's keep it simple. Now we just write username equals to username. So what we do, we put this username, which we give in the method, into the username of the actual object, which we're working with. Age equals to age, email equals to email. And let's create one more method, public void, print fields. And let's just pass this. Here, instead of user, we just print the actual fields, because everything, if we use the actual keywords of the fields inside of the methods, it will get the value of the variable of the actual object which we're working with. So let's keep it like this, remove all of this, and say user1 dot initialize first username admin, let's say 29 just to change it a bit, admin.gmail.com, and user1 dot print fields. Let's try run it, and everything works perfectly. Look at this. We have fields, we have methods, and we have modifiers. This is basically it. In the next tutorials, we'll be expanding on OP and learning more complex topics. For now, you just know how to create a class and how to create an object, and also how to create fields and methods. So that's all for today. Thank you everyone for watching. See you in the next one.